The beacon's wail was faint, barely detectable through the swirling electromagnetic interference surrounding the icy moon. The Solace cut through the thick atmosphere with steady grace, its hull plating glowing faintly from the strain of re-entry. On board, Medical Officer Lainey Harper tightened the straps on her survival harness, ready for the moment their shuttle landed. In her years as a combat medic, she had responded to countless distress signals, but something about this one gnawed at her, a gut instinct that told her this mission was going to be different. "Landing zone in sight," came the clipped voice of the shuttle pilot. The craft pitched slightly as it descended, and through the viewport Harper saw jagged ice cliffs rising like teeth from a frozen tundra. The distress signal had led them to a desolate region with no signs of habitation or shelter. Snow whipped against the shuttle's canopy as it touched down with a heavy shudder. Harper grabbed her medkit and was first down the ramp. The cold hit like a punch, her breath condensing into thick clouds around her. She followed the signal's source to a jagged pile of debris, mostly hidden under a layer of frost. It didn't look like a human vessel. The metal was dull, a strange alloy that reflected light in a ghostly way. Scans showed no other life signs, but Harper heard something, an almost imperceptible keening noise. She moved closer. Then she saw it. The creature lay half buried under a warped metal beam, its body trembling visibly in the frigid air. It was unlike anything she'd ever encountered. A long, sinuous shape covered in shimmering scales that shifted colors under the weak sunlight. Its wings, translucent and filigreed like glass, were curled tight against its body. The creature's head, large and angular, rested limply on the ice, its breath shallow and labored. For a moment, Harper froze. She had prepared herself for wounded soldiers, even alien injuries she couldn't immediately understand. But this was something else entirely. "Sir?" Her comm crackled. One of her team members was approaching. "You need backup?" Harper hesitated. "Not yet," she replied. "I found something. Stand by." She knelt beside the creature. Its scales were cool to the touch, almost too cold. She set down her medkit and began a rapid assessment. Despite her training, it was difficult to know where to start. No obvious wounds, no bleeding she could see. But its body was locked in tremors, and its breathing was so faint it bordered on non-existent. Hypothermia, maybe. Exposure. She glanced at her medkit, running through the options in her head. Human medicines weren't designed for alien physiology. A misstep could kill it outright. Yet if she did nothing, the creature would likely die, anyway. Harper made the call. She pulled out a thermal stabilizer from her kit, something used on human soldiers suffering from severe cold exposure, and administered a carefully measured dose, placing the device against a patch of exposed skin near the creature's chest. The device hissed as it delivered the stabilizing compound. "Stay with me," she murmured, watching the creature's trembling subside, if only slightly. It was still alive, at least. She added a broad-spectrum antibiotic, hoping it would stave off any infection. She had no way of knowing if it would help, but she was working blind. Minutes passed. Harper carefully unburied the creature, using portable heaters to melt the ice encasing its lower body. She could see more clearly now. The damage wasn't just external. The creature's chest rose and fell unevenly, a labored rhythm that suggested internal trauma. She'd need better equipment to properly diagnose it. For now, she did what she could, stabilizing its temperature and ensuring its airway remained clear. As the last of the debris was moved away, she noticed its eyes flutter. They were luminescent, like pale green fire, opening just briefly to focus on her face before closing again. In that moment, Harper felt the weight of her decision. Giving it human medicine might save it, but it also tied her to its fate. If the creature lived, it would be because of her intervention. If it didn't, she tried not to think about that possibility. With the creature stabilized for now, she signaled her team. "I need an evac pod," she said. "We're bringing it back to the ship." "Ma'am, is that safe?" one of them asked cautiously. "What is that thing?" "I don't know," Harper replied, "but it needs help. That's enough for now." The medical bay aboard the Solace was a sterile expanse of soft white light, walls lined with advanced diagnostic monitors and modular treatment units. Lainey Harper stood just outside the isolation chamber, arms crossed as she watched her new patient through the reinforced glass. Shiver, as the crew had taken to calling the creature, lay on a padded platform designed to accommodate various alien morphologies. Over the last 12 hours it had remained still, save for the slow rise and fall of its chest. Harper glanced at her tablet, reviewing the vitals again. Heart rate, if she could call it that, had steadied. Core temperature had risen to a level more consistent with a functioning metabolism. The human thermal stabilizer had worked, at least for now, but the real surprise had come when she'd run a routine blood analysis. Shiver's cellular structure was doing something she'd never seen. Human medications were not merely accepted, they were metabolized at an accelerated rate, prompting a cascade of genetic activity. It was as if the creature's biology had been waiting for the right stimulus to unlock its full potential. "Anything new?" asked Lieutenant Vega, stepping up behind her. He was a lanky man with sharp, tired features, his uniform still scorched from the last mission. He'd been checking on her more frequently than usual since the recovery. "Probably waiting for the other shoe to drop." Harper shook her head. "No drastic changes. It's adapting faster than I anticipated, though. I've never seen anything like it." "You think it's dangerous?" She frowned. "Dangerous how? It's barely conscious." "For now," Vega said, his voice low. "I'm just saying, Harper, you don't know what this thing is. What if it wakes up and it's already awake?" Harper's tone was sharp enough to make him pause. She nodded toward the chamber. Shiver's eyes, previously dull and half-closed, were wide open, glowing softly. It was staring directly at them. Vega took an involuntary step back. "That's creepy." "Relax." Harper tapped the glass lightly. "It's just curious." Curious was an understatement. Over the next several hours, Shiver began to display signs of heightened cognition. At first, it merely followed Harper's movements. Then, it started responding. When she raised a hand, it lifted a foreclaw. When she tilted her head, it mimicked the motion. These were not reflexive actions. Shiver was studying her, matching her gestures with growing precision. By the end of the second day, it had learned to mimic human speech. The first attempt was garbled, a rasping approximation of words. But as Harper continued to speak gently to it, repeating simple phrases, Shiver's voice grew clearer, more refined. Its vocal apparatus, if that's what it could even be called, seemed to adapt rapidly to human linguistic patterns. The creature was no longer just alive. It was communicating. "Harper." Vega's voice was cautious. He had returned yet, again, and this time brought Captain Dryson with him. The captain was a broad-shouldered, no-nonsense type, his silver-gray hair a stark contrast to his piercing black eyes. He peered into the isolation chamber without a word, his expression unreadable. "Yes, sir," Harper said, straightening slightly. "This is unprecedented," Dryson said after a long silence. "You've made a fascinating discovery, but I need you to consider what this means." Harper stiffened. "What it means, sir, is that we saved a life. It means, Dryson interrupted. We might have altered that life in ways we don't fully understand. It's not just about ethics anymore. If this creature is learning, if it's adapting at this rate, we could be dealing with something far more complex than a wounded alien. He turned to face her, his gaze steady. You took a calculated risk giving it human medicine. That decision has consequences, and now it's our job to figure out what those consequences are. Harper bit back a retort. She knew the captain was right. Her actions had clearly triggered something extraordinary in Shiver, something no one could have predicted. But looking at the creature now, its eyes locking onto hers, its voice growing clearer with every passing hour, she felt a strange sense of responsibility. This wasn't just a patient anymore. It was something more. As the captain and Vega departed, Harper remained by the chamber. Shiver tilted. It started without warning. The Solace jolted violently as Harper was checking Shiver's latest scan. A klaxon sounded through the ship, the piercing wail signaling an attack. Harper dropped the scanner and braced herself against the nearest console. The lights flickered, and for a moment it felt as though the floor had been ripped out from under her. The ship wasn't just hit, it was being gutted. "Medbay to bridge," Harper shouted into her comm. "What's happening?" The voice that came back was strained, distorted by interference. "We're under fire. Unknown hostiles. Repeat, unknown hostiles. Shields failing. Brace for—" The line went dead. The ship rocked again, sending Harper to her knees. From the isolation chamber, Shiver raised its head, eyes wide with an almost human-like alarm. The creature's wings twitched, glowing faintly as if responding to the ship's systems. Harper wasn't sure if it was reacting to the chaos or sensing something more, but there was no time to analyze it. Harper scrambled to her feet just as the medbay doors hissed open. Vega appeared, his face pale. "They're cutting through the hull," he gasped. "We need to evac. Now!" Harper glanced at Shiver, who was now standing on the platform, its scaled body humming with faint light. It was no longer the trembling, wounded creature she had rescued. Shiver looked strong, its limbs steady and its gaze intense. And as the ship shuddered again under enemy fire, it suddenly spoke, clear and deliberate. "I can help," it said. Harper froze. "What?" "I can help," Shiver repeated, stepping down from the platform. "The attackers are not unknown. They have hunted my kind before." Vega's hand went to his sidearm. "What is it talking about?" Ignoring him, Harper stepped closer to Shiver. "You recognize them? You know who's attacking us?" Shiver nodded. "They are Riln," it said. "A scourge that scours. They destroy what they cannot claim. If you let me out, I can stop them." "Out?" Vega took a step back, his weapon halfway out of its holster. "You're not seriously thinking of—" "We don't have a choice," Harper said. Her voice was firm. "If it can help us—" "It," Shiver interrupted, "has a name. I am one of the Sentinels." "Sentinel?" Harper repeated. "I am the last of my line, hunted as the others were hunted. But I am whole now thanks to you." Shiver turned to the reinforced glass separating it from the rest of the bay. "You mended what was broken. I am ready." "Captain's not going to like this," Vega muttered. Harper ignored him. She keyed the release mechanism and the isolation chamber's door slid open with a hiss. Shiver stepped out into the medbay, its luminous scales casting faint, shifting patterns on the walls. Harper held her breath, unsure of what would happen next. Before she could say anything, the ship jolted once more, the deck buckling beneath their feet. Shiver sprang into motion, moving with a grace that seemed almost impossible for something its size. It reached the doorway in seconds and paused, glancing back at Harper. "Trust me," it said. Then it vanished down the corridor, moving faster than any human could. "What have you done?" Vega hissed, staring after it. Harper didn't answer. She didn't know the answer herself. All she knew was that the Riln were tearing the Solace apart, and if Shiver, or Sentinel, or whatever it was, could help, she had to give it the chance. Moments later, the ship's alarm shifted to a new tone. Reports started coming through the intercom. Unknown energy signature, central decks, hull breach sealed, enemies retreating. The chaotic chatter built and fell away in waves. Harper couldn't make sense of it. But then Vega's comm crackled. "Vega, get to the bridge," came the captain's voice. "I don't know what the hell that thing is, but it just saved our lives." The Solace limped through space, its hull still sparking from the Riln attack. Repairs were underway, and the frantic energy of battle had given way to an uneasy quiet. In the medbay, Harper sat on the edge of her cot, replaying the events in her head. She had watched Shiver, no, Sentinel, turn the tide of an impossible fight. The creature had not just defended the ship, it had repelled the invaders with an intensity that left her shaken. Now Sentinel was no longer a patient, nor just a survivor. It was something entirely different. The door slid open. Harper turned, to see Captain Dryson, his normally rigid posture slightly relaxed, though his face betrayed the same exhaustion everyone felt. "Harper," he said, his voice even, "we need to talk." She stood, clasping her hands behind her back. "Sir?" The captain stepped inside, letting the door close behind him. "You made a decision back on that moon. I'm not here to question that decision. I know why you did it. I might have done the same." He paused, folding his arms. "But you need to understand what we're dealing with now." Harper nodded. "I've been trying to understand, sir. Sentinel. I mean Shiver. It's changed in ways I didn't anticipate." "Changed is an understatement," Dryson said, his tone sharp. "This creature went from barely breathing to single-handedly fending off a warship. And it's not just that. It's intelligent. More than that. It's strategic. It acted like it had fought these enemies before. It told me they hunted. Its kind," Harper offered. "The Riln, it called them." The captain frowned. "And what else did it say?" "Not much." She hesitated. Just that it was whole now, that it was ready. Dryson's gaze darkened. "Do you realize what that means, Harper? That medicine you gave it, it didn't just heal it. It triggered something. Maybe a genetic shift, maybe an awakening of latent abilities. Whatever it was, you didn't just save its life, you changed its nature." "Sir, Harper began, but he held up a hand. "I'm not blaming you. But we have to be realistic. That medicine, whatever it did, makes us responsible for whatever Sentinel does now. And that's not all." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "We've picked up something on long-range sensors. Several ships. They're holding position, not attacking. But I'll be damned if they aren't similar to the Riln ship we just faced." Harper's stomach tightened. "They're waiting?" "Waiting," the captain confirmed. "Or observing. And Sentinel has been different since the fight. It hasn't spoken again, hasn't approached the bridge, but it's not hiding either. It's just watching. Watching." Harper shivered at the word. Sentinel had done what she'd thought impossible, defended the Solace against a superior force. But now she wondered if she'd set something far greater into motion. The Riln, or whoever was out there, were no longer the only ones watching. She felt it too, a presence she couldn't quite name. Sentinel was more than a creature now. It was a fulcrum, a point of change, and the entire galaxy might be shifting because of it. I need you to keep it close, Dryson said finally. Talk to it. Learn from it. And if you see any sign that it's not on our side, it is on our side. Harper cut in, her voice firm. It saved us. It could have left, but it didn't. Dryson narrowed his eyes. Let's hope it stays that way, for all our sakes. With that, he turned and left, the door hissing shut behind him. Harper exhaled slowly. She leaned, back against the wall, her mind racing. Sentinel had called itself the last of its line. She couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't truly alone, not anymore. The medicine, the battle, the Riln, none of it felt like a coincidence. Something bigger was happening, and Harper knew she was no longer just a medic. She was a link, in a chain stretching far beyond the walls of the Solace. Sentinel, somewhere else on the ship, was silent, but Harper could feel the weight of its presence. The next day had come, and it carried with it the question she feared most. What comes? In the days following the Riln attack, life aboard the Solace took on an almost surreal quality. The repairs continued, the crew moved about their duties, and yet the presence of Sentinel altered everything. The once injured alien now strode through the ship's corridors with calm confidence, its shimmering scales casting gentle ripples of light on the walls. Crew members whispered about its role in their survival, and while many expressed gratitude, an undercurrent of unease lingered. Sentinel was no longer merely a passenger. It was an ally, a savior, and perhaps something far more profound. Harper spent every waking moment observing and speaking with Sentinel, trying to piece together its history, its biology, and the ramifications of her intervention. It had grown more articulate each day, not just imitating speech but grasping complex ideas, learning the intricacies of human thought, and even offering insights into the Solace's systems. She was beginning to see it not as a patient or a case study, but as a being with a perspective as vast as the stars themselves. One quiet evening, Sentinel stood in the observation deck, gazing out at the vast expanse of the galaxy. Harper joined it, her breath catching slightly as she approached. No matter how many times she saw it, the sheer presence of Sentinel, its towering form, its glowing eyes that seemed to see through her, always left her both in awe and deeply unsettled. Something on your mind? She asked, trying to keep her tone casual. Sentinel turned its head toward her, the subtle motion graceful and deliberate. This galaxy is vast and filled with wonder, yet it is also broken, riddled with fear and conflict. Harper frowned. You sound like you've seen it all before. I have, Sentinel said, its voice resonant. Or rather, my kind has. We once moved through these stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians. When you gave me your medicine, you mended more than my body. You mended something that was lost. My connection to the long-forgotten purpose of my kind. Harper's throat tightened. I didn't know what would happen. I just didn't want you to die. And because of that choice, Sentinel said, you have brought a Sentinel back to the galaxy. You keep using that word, Harper said. Sentinel. What does it mean, really? Sentinel looked back out at the stars. It means I am a watcher, a protector, and a guide. My kind stood at the boundaries of what was known and unknown, ensuring that no one species gained too much power, that balance was preserved. But we were hunted, destroyed by those who sought control over all. The Riln were merely tools in that larger conflict. And now they're coming back for you, Harper said quietly. For us. Sentinel tilted its head. Perhaps. Or perhaps they are afraid. They have not forgotten what the Sentinels were capable of. Harper swallowed hard. This isn't just about you, is it? Others like you will come. Yes, Sentinel said. They will come because they sense the awakening. The choice you made to heal me, it sent ripples through the fabric of what remains, and those ripples will reach others. Draw them here. Not all will come in peace. Harper felt the weight of those words settle on her shoulders. She thought back to that moment on the icy moon, the desperation to save a dying creature, the gamble with human medicine. That single decision now felt monumental, the pivot point of something far greater than her. What do we do? She asked. Sentinel turned fully to face her. We prepare. We learn from one another. We build trust, so that when others come, we stand together. The Solace is not just a ship now, it is a beacon. And you, Harper, are at the heart of this new beginning. She didn't know whether to feel humbled or terrified. Perhaps both. The Solace had survived the Riln, but it was clear the greater battle was yet to come. Sentinel's transformation wasn't just a miraculous recovery. It was the start of a galactic shift, one that placed them all on a path they could neither predict nor escape. And at the center of it was one simple act. A human war medic giving a dying alien medicine.